Good morning, welcome to Your View. I am Morayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Hello, Mariam.
Hello, hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good, I'm fine, thank you.
Is this like the design? what is this? Like Lord of the Rings kind of? I don't know.
Lord of the Rings, Michael Jackson. I don't know what it is, but it's fun and I know I like it.
Yeah. Anyways, how are you doing?
I'm fine. So, of course, there's been serious traffic because of all the work that's going on, especially on the Third Mainland Bridge. And usually the part of the Third Mainland, I think the other side is now being blocked because of, So what has happened is, for those of us coming from like the Yaba area, then you come through a Butemeta part of the bridge and down to join Third Mainland Bridge to come on this side, right? There's a diversion called, I think it's National Water Inland Water Authority. So there's that diversion. That's like for those who are using ferries to go to the island. So they've created a road that they go through there. And what has happened is they are blocking traffic. They've made like 3 lanes there. So I think we need LASMA or some, traffic apparatus there to make the lanes, 2 lanes to go through, to turn through that area, and then 1 lane to allow those who are going onto the bridge. Because what happens, how we drive here, you block up everyone else, and then no one is able to move for hours. But we can just create 2 lanes for those who are turning around, and then 1 lane for those who are getting on the bridge. So I'm
sure that they understand, because I got to be confusing, but I'm sure that those who are in that area understand what you're saying.
They will understand. So yes, and then I have a birthday shout out. So we have a viewer. He says he's the fan of Your View for many years. He lives in China, and he said today is his birthday, the 1st of December. So happy birthday, Dr. Shegun Adekalu. Yes, Adekalu.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. I'm trying to see if I have somebody. How are you doing, Nima?
I'm ruffled.
Oh,
I left much early, but my 5:30 stint did not work this morning. Just sat there, starting traffic on the Badagry Expressway till I got to Mautu for hours on end. So definitely I'll meet the one at Atoni, I'll meet the one at Oworo, and then Caleb, So it's usually better for me to leave much earlier, get here, have more time, but that didn't happen. Let me just shout out to Mr. Omojola. I don't know your first name, I don't know your other name, but you're always at Mautu. He's a LASMA official, always at Mautu. And when I saw him this morning, I just felt a bit of calm, because he's always doing his job efficiently, himself and his group, not only him. 2 other officers have not been able to copy their names of their uniform, but Omojola, I copied your name. Thank you, and thank you to the LASMA guys, my parties that I had to call this morning. It's crazy at Mautu. You can't have that terminal operating at Mautu and then parking. They park trucks parked from the Mautu all the way to First Gate, all the way to Agboju. You can't have trucks parking, terminal operating on a major road. In Lagos State, you people should know. It's not about whether we like government or we don't like government. It is too crazy. It's not going to work together. It's not going to. It's not easy. Money we escape it by going much earlier. But if you get stuck in that traffic, there's nothing you can do. And they are constructing the road there. It's not sane for anybody. Usually the army officers and navy officers are the ones controlling traffic. Without that, we can't pass anywhere. We can't go.
Okay.
And then, sorry, please, there's a decomposing body under the Mautu Bridge. Whoa. Decomposing, and I think it should be over 3 days old. Please, whoever is in charge should please help them clear that, please.
This country,
everything I see this morning.
This country, I don't know how we survive. But there's a lady that sent me a message, Libby Eleda. Today's her birthday, December 1st. Today's Happy New Month, everybody. Happy birthday to Libby Eleda. Today's her birthday. Many more years to you. And honestly, we need this new month. Celebration is here. COVID has taken a toll on everybody. Yeah. Many people have gone this year. But let's find reasons to be grateful this year. It's been an interesting year, I must say. I can't use another word. But let's just give thanks for this new month and just ask that all of us, as we have seen December 1, we shall see the new year by God's grace. Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back. No. Thanks for staying with us. We're going to start with the nation. Zulum, let's battle Boko Haram with mercenaries. Buhari gives marching order to wipe out insurgents. Bandits kill 7 farmers, abduct 30 in Castina. CBN okays dollar collection for diaspora remittances. APC begins membership registration for December 5th, December 12th, actually. Umahi, after my life, says Anyim. And El Rufai clears governors of blame on insecurity. Okay, which story are we taking?
I'll take the major headline. So, of course, we know the sad situation that happened and Zamfara State, and also we hear about bandits went to Katsina State too, and about 7 people were killed, you know. But the governor, while receiving the delegates from of the federal government, you know, gave some things he like recommendations he feels that the federal government should take towards the fight against insurgency. He's asked that the government should look into recruiting mercenaries to go through the Sambisa forest, you know, and try to bring these insurgents out. He's asking that we should also have collaborative relationship with our neighboring countries, Chad, Niger, you know, countries like that. He's saying that also that during the Jonathan administration that he sought the help, I think, of South African military as well, and they were able to help reclaim some of the territories that were taken over by Boko Haram at that time. He's just saying that this has to be done, you know, properly. It needs to be done strategically. And of course, there are many people who are talking about restructuring the military architecture, that we need fresh ideas, new ideas, different things need to be done, you know, unconventional things need to be done now. I was
going to say, El Rufai, the governor of Kaduna State, was saying that he was speaking on the station, and he was saying that many state governors are helpless. They need help in security. They're the chief operating security officers of their states, and yet they don't have control of the commissioners of police. Commissioner of police would have to take directives from the inspector general. They don't have no idea who is coming to their state. They have no adequate funding. Some of them are able to do it compared to others, but the truth is that they need help, and many of the state governors are crying out. Another story that was interesting, there was CBN finally is allowing, it says that it has stopped Naira payments to recipients of diaspora remittances, meaning that those of us receiving money from abroad, you can actually receive it now in the dollar denomination. You don't have to change to Naira. According to him, that's supposed to be strengthening our foreign exchange. Moving on now to Daily Sun. Rice farmers killing. Villagers leak information to Boko Haram, says military. Governor Umahi declares war on Anyim. Insurgency, Buhari blows hot. U.S. President-elect Biden nominates Nigerian Adeyemo as Deputy Treasury Secretary. And Niger Delta activist, ex-footballer Emma Okocha passes on. I have a major problem with the back and forth we're getting. I'd like to take the major headlines, still on the rice farmers killing, because it bothers me that within the last 48 hours, we've been hearing different versions and different utterances from the federal government. So initially, our president had said that after the 43 was killed, he said that he had given everything, all the support that he has given the military, everything they needed to be able to combat this insurgency. 24 hours later, we're hearing from the Garba Shehu saying that, oh, they were not supposed to go there. They didn't have clearance from the military. They didn't have clearance from the military to go and farm because they should have gotten a clearance before they farm. Thirdly, we're hearing from the Honorable Minister of Information saying that, oh, they wanted to, they've not been given access to the ammunition they need required. Yeah. That's why the terrorists are overpowering the military. Yeah. And then we heard also on this show yesterday by a lawmaker in that state saying that as of yesterday morning, you're not here, right? As of yesterday morning, they are getting 30 bodies as of that morning. Yeah. But we are seeing the papers from the military, they're saying, no, it's only 43. That the UN had got it wrong. So there's a lot of conflicting information here, and we're getting confused as Nigerians because I think one of the problems we've had in this country is we don't have the right spokesperson. They don't understand the rudiments of public relations. Is it just you must know when to speak, how to speak, and what not to say.
Comments, I heard an admission that, you know, that certain areas are not necessarily Nigeria anymore. They are other Boko Haram territories. Yeah. Because if you're saying that they don't have they didn't get a clear from the military to go to their farms to find what they would eat. No,
they are saying that area was taken over by Boko Haram at some point. At some point,
agreeing now.
Their own states, their own.
By saying that, and you know, over the weeks, we've been hearing from them saying certain areas people can go back to their farms. There's peace now. now, and you're saying they needed a clear from you to go back to their farms. It means you're admitting that truly we did not have any technical whatever of Boko Haram.
Remember, even when the minister told us that we already defeated Boko Haram.
Certainly in a war with Boko Haram.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. But I was just going to say that it took time to have this farming go on. The sowing season, the going to planting season, and nobody told them anything during that time up until harvesting and when they were killed. You know, it just shows that.
Now they'll get declared.
I don't think it's even about
big leagues that will get clear.
I don't think it's only about communication. I think that we seem to be totally unaware of what is truly happening in this area.
But even see, the point I'm saying on communication,
not about communication.
Let me disagree a bit, because yes, things happen. Things would happen, but there's a way it's communicated to you that is. What happened with the Senate President, Honorable Gwajabiya Miller? One of the states killed somebody. Yeah. We saw how immediately, yes, he took responsibility immediately. We saw how it happened. But now we're not going for his jugular because of that. We're understanding that, okay, this has happened. But at the same time, these 4 people who have died, at least the presidency can say,
they will respond to comments rather than respond to the situation itself.
Moving on to Nigerian Tribune, because the way the thing is doing us, I don't understand. Nigerian Tribune, please. Borno massacre, recruit mercenaries to defeat terrorists, Zulum tells federal government. Ex-pension boss Mina arrested in Niger, finally. Let's find a story. 3 kidnappers of Reverend Sister in Ondo to die by hanging. How police killed my wife, says Unibend lecturer at SARS panel. Why Akonde, Oshobafini, others discussed with Buhari. I mean, what they discussed, actually. Parallel market trades at 500 naira to the dollar at CBN at just exchange rate. And the Nigerian-born Adeyemo nominated Biden's Deputy Treasury Secretary. Okay, which story are we taking?
Mena. Thank God for...
Mena, wherever you are.
Thank God for you. So an intelligence operatives of our intelligence operative service, operatives of our intelligence service arrested Mina somewhere in Niger Republic to come out and answer to the 12-count charge.
I think they even released Ndome.
Yes,
they released
it. Self-recognition, the court had done that last week, but we have found the person we are looking for.
I mean, this is the second time I think he has done.
Yes, now.
So we know he's in flight risk.
They know he's
I hope Umbul and Alamisia stunt on them.
You know.
Let me take the story. The kidnappers. You have that story?
Yes,
go ahead.
So in 2016, 3 Reverend sisters in Ondo were kidnapped, and they had to pay a ransom of about 1 million naira, you know, to the kidnappers. But thankfully, the kidnappers were apprehended and, you know, prosecuted properly, and they have been sentenced to die by hanging. That's the end of that story.
Yeah. Okay. Any other story? These are Nigerian-born deputy. Congratulations to him.
I know Mariah is very interested in this.
And I'm not because I mean I'm happy for the guy. But the truth is that is he a product of Nigeria? I don't know. So we claim all these Nigerians doing well abroad. The doctor is he Onyema that did well. We would like to claim them, but did they pass through our educational system? This guy went to University of California and he went on to Harvard Law. Can I claim him because he has a Nigerian name? Well, congratulations to him and Nigerians. You never know.
Congratulations to his blood.
To his family. Moving on very quickly to Vanguard. Borno massacre, why Nigerians at mercy of terrorists. Let's find a story we've not taken. 554 million grass cotton scandal. EFCC finally rearranged ex-SJ Babashir Lawal. I wanted to read that story. FG plans debt restructuring. CBN liberalizes use of diaspora remittances, and 13% derivation. Militants bid to stop South-South governor split stakeholders.
Is there 1% travelers in
yes, 1% of
yes,
go ahead.
For COVID-19? So
yes.
The presidential task force on COVID-19 is worried because they say about 1% of all the people traveling into Nigeria in this period have tested positive for COVID-19, and they're asking for those of us in diaspora, especially during this time, you know, the holidays, everybody wants to come home. They're asking that, please, if you really do love Nigeria and Nigerians, this is the time to stay back so that they can contain what is already here. And that, of course, there are things we need to do. If you have to come in, there are things you need to do. You need to do your PCR test 5 days before. If you're negative, then you can come and then you register to travel. And then when you get to Nigeria, you have to do another test and then stay in isolation for at least 7 days before you can go to your point of
we need to run off, but our federal government, according to the Minister of Finance, is saying that we need to restructure our debt, obviously, because we can't afford to pay the rates that we are paying right now. We need to restructure it and talk to those who are the ones that loaned us the money. We need to, our creditors, we need to go back to them and say, please, help us. So we need to restructure. We're not, the kind of revenue we're getting cannot meet the demand for our debt payments. So we have to restructure it. Understandable.
Revenue goes to
it goes. Understandable. Unfortunately, that's all we can take on the show today. So a video went viral last week concerning LUTH, and it was important for us to have a conversation with them. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. So, moving on to other topics. Recently, the management of the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, LUTH, were accused of allegedly ejecting nursing mothers whose newborns were being treated in the facility from their wards. In a video that went viral, the mothers could be seen camping on the bare ground in the hospital's walkway. Now, joining us on the show is the Deputy Chairman, Medical Advisory Committee, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Dr. Yewande Oshodi. Good morning, madam. Are you there?
Morning. Good morning. I'm here.
Yes.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you on the show. So, about a couple of weeks ago, we took this story, I think, because a journalist had initially come up with that story saying that the mothers who had newborn babies where they didn't have water. I think that was the initial complaint, that there was absolutely no water. And we called somebody to speak on that. And, okay, that was a different, that was UI. Okay, I do apologize for that. So, but the story concerning LUTH, that mothers are having to camp on the hallways, that story is not going down well with many Nigerians. Could you tell us exactly the situation at the hospital at this time?
All right. Thank you very much. And first of all, I want to thank your producer and the team for choosing to focus on this with the intention of getting clarity on what exactly is going on. Very quickly, I just want to let us know that the Lagos University Teaching Hospital caters for adults and children and babies. And in the course of looking after children, we have at least 4 different locations where children can be cared for in that hospital. Some children are brought to the accident and emergency. Some that are older are admitted on the D2, D3 ward. That's where we admit those older children. Then newborn babies that are born to mothers who did their antenatal in LUTH are, oftentimes either roomed with their mothers on C block, or they are taken to the NNU, that's the neonatal unit, which is separate from C block. Then we have this particular ward, around which this issue raised, which is Ward D1. That is where we cater for newly born babies, oftentimes premature, or babies that require surgeries made after birth, small babies less than 1 month old, and they are admitted on D1. Now, the incident around the moms and the babies in D1 was what was alluded to in that unfortunate video. Now, remember that the babies are our primary patients, and these babies are oftentimes breastfeeding. So because of that, even though it's the babies we admit, from time immemorial, it's not a new thing. There is a room where we have mothers that are breastfeeding and they bring their children, they can stay. The moms do not stay on the wards with these young babies, simply because the babies are vulnerable to infection and things like that. I hope are you following me?
Very clearly.
Yes. So these moms, because we know, and many times mothers are coming from far distances. Remember what I said, our patients are primarily these babies, these young babies. But we recognize that we need the moms not too far at times. And some of them struggle with going back and forth from home. Some of them go back and forth from home. But then we have this facility where we allow the moms to stay. And in the last 1 month, I must, let me quickly remind you that Lagos University Teaching Hospital is a center where you have specialists from all fields. And our neonatologists are the best in this country. We do not even have enough in the country. So anyone that has a preterm baby, a small baby, needs the expertise, comes to LUTH. And we regularly are taking care of babies in and out of incubators, and they're getting discharged regularly. And recently, we had the World Prematurity Day. We've delivered quadruplets, quintuplets, and they've gone home. And it is with this kind of arena, moms are nearby, they're breastfeeding their babies, and the care is given. So why did this issue of being evacuated, why did it come up? What happened was about 4 weeks ago, during the routine accreditation is what we do to make sure that the specialties are up to standard. So that happens several times in the course of the year. During the accreditation of pediatrics, preparing for it, the head of department and the head of the neonatal unit, that's the unit where these small babies are kept, took us around as management. I was part of that walk around that, this place where the moms stay, we need more beds. The beds are not enough. Incidentally, in that same location, there's a small section that was being used for a creche. Now, the backdrop to this is that in the hospital, we already have 2 big creches existing. So we decided with the head of department that this question, it's not necessary here. Let's take it out so that we can create more beds for the moms. And this is what makes this story very upsetting, because the intention was to create more spaces for moms with the creche area.
Right.
So that happened about 4 weeks ago. That decision was made. At the World Prematurity Day event about 2 weeks ago, the head of neonatal unit was able to also facilitate some donations from well-meaning Nigerians for renovation of this mom section.
Okay.
So we do think about moms and babies. So with that fund, we were ready to go. That, okay, we can now evacuate this creche and renovate this place, create more beds for moms.
Okay.
So instruction was given. Please, Dr. So-and-so, you oversee this section, this creche, and this mom's area. Kindly ask your people to evacuate the creche so that the renovation can commence.
Okay.
That morning, incidentally, myself and the CMAC, who happens to be next to the CMD, we took a walk around, and we saw the evacuation going on, and we just literally walked past. Okay, that's going on, that's good, and went on to other things, only to get a call from the head of department that some moms say that they have been told that they are going to leave that section. And the CMAC immediately said, no, that's not the instruction. The instruction is that it's the creche that should be evacuated. We were barely a minute walk away from the place, and we walked back immediately. And we saw what was going on ourselves and called the person in charge and said, please, the moms are not part of the evacuation that should be done. It's the creche that we're referring to. And believe me, this was all within 10 minutes. This was all within 10 minutes. And to also let you see what transpired. By the time we got back to the office, we got a letter when we got back there saying, we're parents, we're being evacuated. And he just documented on it that, this has been sorted already, only for us to receive calls that a video had been made. So what we are hearing is that video, supposed video showing this location was made within 10 minutes after a complaint was made and it was being resolved, and was resolved all within 10 minutes. Right. No mom, underline, no mom or baby has ever been assigned to sleep on a corridor in the Lagos University Children. The people that were in that video are relatives of patients that come from far and at times don't want to go back home, and they sit on the corridor. They do all sorts of things on that corridor. And maybe we've permitted them because we understand that, we know what traffic is like. People sit there, they place their hair there, they're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner there. Right. One relation is an admission. You have grandma, you have grandpa, you have brother, uncle, sister, cousin coming to visit. We understand what our culture is like. So what we have is really a distortion of the facts, a misrepresentation of the facts.
Okay, let me get a few more questions. If we're
LUTH is a very, very large and usually well-patronized hospital because a lot of people believe that's where we find the best of doctors. Is LUTH in any way overwhelmed, or are they, lacking any facility or, equipment in any way that you'd like to share with us?
Overwhelmed in what manner? What do you mean?
It's a large crowd every time. Bed spaces. Are you overwhelmed, handling patients? Do you lack certain facility, beds, anything at all that you might want to share? Well,
I wouldn't use the word overwhelmed, but I would say that we serve a lot of people, and there's always a demand for the services. And we keep trying our best to expand to meet the services. Remember, we happen to be in a state that has millions of people, and we're just one of 2 teaching hospitals serving the population of this state. And when you think about that, look at it in the context of Nigeria as a whole. Definitely we could do with more, but we're doing our best with what we have.
Dr. Oshodi, from what you had just explained, it seems that there's a problem with communication.
Okay, can you speak up a bit? I'm struggling to hear you.
Okay, from what you've just explained, you've taken us through what happened on this particular day, and there seems to be a serious problem with communication. So when the hospital decides to communicate with patients, what method do you use? Do you have newsletters sent out ahead of time to patients and the mothers there, so they are very well informed of what the plans the hospital has? Or do you just expect that somebody would walk in and tell them, and then of course then you find yourself having to explain yourself based on how someone interpreted what you meant to pass along?
Well, thank you for that question. The issue of communication, we do have systems of communication, and even the best of us many times need to keep looking at how to improve our communication. And that's, that's an assignment that everyone has, and our institution, also. But having said that, we have levels of communication. We have a head of department, we have unit heads, and all this information, people are on top of it. The fact that at times people do miscommunicate, and that could happen, is always there, and people must take responsibility. And as a management, that's it. Yes, the CMAC takes full responsibility, and the office of the CMAC, that yes, probably that little piece was something that we could, want to think about how we could, improve upon it. But the fact is that immediately communication response was given, and it was sorted. Right. But the corollary is the case where you find that a person, a Nigerian, chooses to not confirm information properly and then miscommunicates to the rest of the country. And it's very unfortunate because there are many people who need our services and essentially get discouraged when you have this kind of news going around. It may interest you to also know that this particular person that made that video had their child looked after for 24 days in that hospital and discharged safely home. That did not go viral. We have neonatologists who keep doing extremely amazing work. That is what should go viral. We have so many other, positive stories. Yes, negative stories are part of the mix, and things do happen, but distortion of facts is absolutely unacceptable, and it's wrong in all ramifications.
Thank you so much, Dr. Oshodi, for sharing your view on this, because the truth is that that video did go viral, and Nigerians were really worried about that. But thank you for helping us understand better what happened, because we've been to LUTH, we were there, we went around, they took us around some time ago recently, and we saw the facility, to the oncology ward. We actually, maternity.
Pediatric oncology ward.
Yes, yeah. So we went around, so we understand they have quite a bit of work to be done, especially they might need help also with additional facility support in any way they can. But thank you very much, Dr. Oshodi, for shedding light on that for us. Let's go on a break now. When we come back, we move on to HIV. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. So, in commemorating World AIDS Day, which is today, our guest, Professor Patrick Dako, will enlighten us on HIV/AIDS, its symptoms, prevention, management, and diagnosis, especially in Nigeria. You can call us on 090-241-63440. You can also tweet us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag #TVC so we can read your tweets. So on the phone we have Professor Patrick. Are you there? Thanks for calling.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good to have you. So we haven't discussed HIV/AIDS in a very long time. People just seem to have just moved on. The new kids on the block are diabetes, cancer, quite a number of them. But HIV is still very much with us. Could you tell us again what this disease is and exactly how it's contracted and how it's been managed, especially in Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's very good that the global community has decided on many years back to having a day set aside to bring to fore the issues that have to do with HIV, human immunodeficiency virus. And, of course, the disease caused by AIDS is, AIDS. So for us, it's very, very important now because, like you have mentioned earlier on, once you do not keep reminding people of what is still around, they tend to forget it. Sometimes you have something in the house. People live with some kind of debt and they get used to it until somebody from outside comes and says, what's that on the floor over there? And you realize that this is something that has been there, but you never thought about it. So I think it's so for HIV that for a long time we have not been giving much attention to the fact that it still exists. It is still something that you can get through unprotected sex, through transfusion of blood that is infected, through any blood-to-blood contact that has to do with between an uninfected and an infected person. So HIV is still a viral disease that exists. And it is still leading to morbidity, that sickness. It is still a cause of mortality, a leading cause of mortality in Nigeria. So I think these are the issues that we need to continue to focus on.
Okay.
And as you have mentioned, we still need to focus on prevention. It's a completely preventable disease. We used to sing the song ABC. A for abstinence, and B for behavioral change, and C for use of condoms. And I think that those methods are still there. But I think everybody taking care of himself in terms of being very careful and observing this will still lead to the same outcome, and that's prevention of HIV.
Right.
Okay, so what you just mentioned now, the ABCs, how to prevent HIV, were promoted in the past and relaxed recently. So one would assume that things were better. Is it still that bad? What are the figures looking like? The HIV figures in Nigeria?
Well, it's estimated. We must also commend the efforts of the global community, donor agencies, the government of Nigeria through NACA and through the various ministries. For over the years, we have seen a decline in terms of the seroprevalence. Between the age of 15 and 49, we have a prevalence now of 1.4. And remember, there was a time that the prevalence is about 5.4. So over the years, it has come down to 1.4, which is really very encouraging. But remember that we're a population of 200 million. Mm-hmm. So when you say 1% of 200 million, they are talking about 2 million. Yeah. And 2 million is more than the population of another country. And therefore, the burden of disease is still there. So in terms of mortality, there are more effective treatments, and therefore mortality has reduced. But to say that it's been eliminated and people are not dying from HIV is not a fact. There are still people that are dying from HIV. And therefore, it's very important that as we continue to live our daily lives, we should live with the consciousness that HIV is still real and that it's preventable. There is a treatment for those who test positive.
Okay. Professor Dakum, we have, because of, how well we get we have information on retroviral drugs. People understand how to, get their, load up on their, what's the word called?
Viral load.
Yes, they load up on their viral load. So they have information on how to manage it. My concern now is for young people, because we have learned how to manage it. We have resources on how to manage it. The problem to me is first time getting in contact with it for the first time infections. Mm-hmm. When we were growing up, it was constantly in our ears. We were afraid of just even looking at somebody. But I'm wondering, this new generation, a lot of them going into university, teenagers, what is the, what kind of numbers do we have for young people in that particular demographic? And is it something that we're concerned or worried about when it comes to infection for the first time?
Well, you're absolutely right. The age between 15 and 25, we do have the new infection rate higher among that age group. I don't have the exact figure off my head, but I do know that that age group is disproportionately affected by HIV. And that's because of what you have mentioned. The risk taking in that age group is still very high. We also do have a younger population of people that are in sex workers. So that also is a driver of the infection. And the message still remains the same, that it is real and that care to be taken. Of course, the message has now been to be tailored to this age group. In a number of places that we work, we also do have support groups for adolescents and young girls, who are living with HIV, and they now reach out to their peers in terms of peer group education. And we're finding that effective when you get a young person who is HIV positive going to a school and talking to the students there about the fact that, look, it's still real. I'm infected. This is how I'm managing it. It drives the message much further. All
right, Professor.
But, yes, you are right. The younger age group are still vulnerable.
Professor, I need you to help me clarify something, because the knowledge we had was that when you have HIV, it is still manageable until it becomes AIDS. That's when it becomes fatal. Is that still factual, or somebody who has AIDS can still be healed and cured? Or is there a vaccine at all to even prevent this in the first place at all?
Well, in the past, because of the paucity of treatment in terms of availability of drugs, and also because at that time we didn't understand the science very well.
Okay.
We wait until your CD4, that's part of the white cells that respond to defense mechanisms in your blood, until it gets below a particular level. In fact, there was a time we were not treating unless the CD4 count was below 200. Then we upped it to 500 when we discovered that, look, earlier treatment would prevent complications. We upped it to 500. But still, we now came to the realization that to reduce morbidity and to reduce mortality, morbidity, sickness, mortality, death, we needed to now do what we call test and start. Test and then start taking medication immediately. We do not have to wait until what you mentioned, the AIDS complex develops. By AIDS complex, we are talking about very symptomatic HIV. So in the past, we used to wait, but now we don't. The protocol for treatment or the guideline for treatment indicates that once you find somebody who is positive, in fact, many practices even define it as 10-day treatment. But we get test and start because we believe that you need to do some level of preparation and get the person on treatment as quick as the next 24, 48 hours. And if you do that, you reduce the possibility of that person getting, comorbidities like tuberculosis, and even some cancers are prevented when you take treatment early. So yes, it is true you have mentioned in the past this was the practice, but currently now we do test and start. And that test and start also helps us in reducing in retaining patients in care. So we do not lose them because some people, when they get tested, they are positive. By the time they go to think about it, you never get them back. And getting them on treatment is difficult. Okay. For as long as they are not on treatment, they are still transmitting the virus.
Right. Okay.
Professor, we have a lot of, we're in the conversation of COVID-19 and all the comorbidities. Someone living with HIV, is there any reason for the person to be even more afraid than a regular person in this period?
Well, studies have been a little bit here and there in terms of the actual interaction between HIV and COVID. I remember COVID is still just getting to about a year old globally, and in Nigeria we're in the ninth month or 10th month of COVID. So understanding the interaction is still science in progress. However, there are studies that have shown that mortality, especially with advanced HIV, once you have COVID on it again, leads to a higher death among patients with HIV. However, there are studies also that have shown some levels of in fact, a study which is just one that showed some kind of protection, but generally, comorbidities are more regarded in the science world as predisposing more to mortality for COVID. So if somebody has HIV, taking precautions against COVID is extremely important, and it is beneficial.
Right.
Because handling the complications of COVID and HIV in one person would be one too many.
Right, okay.
So, sir, please let me get clarity about the accuracy of testing. So, a lot of people have questioned the test, the kind of test they do for HIV. I had a group of people saying that if you had certain infections already and you go for an HIV test, you would most likely test positive, especially if you had something like tuberculosis. How true is that? How accurate is the kind of testing that you do?
I'm not getting it.
Okay, so the question in the past, the kind of testing that they do for HIV patients, saying that if you had certain illnesses already and you had to go for an HIV test, you most likely test positive, not necessarily have HIV. So how accurate is the kind of testing that you do, and how true is the claim that, you know, if you had some illnesses like tuberculosis, you test positive to HIV?
Well, if I get you right, that's infections that predispose to HIV?
Mm-hmm, most likely.
Well, any sexually transmitted infection, people who have had syphilis, gonorrhea, etc., we do see that if we find somebody with any sexually transmitted infection, usually it's an indication that we need to test that person for HIV urgently. Other than that, except if I didn't get your question right.
All right, we have to wrap up, sir, but is there a vaccine in the offing? Should we be expecting something soon? I mean, since I was a child, we're looking for some vaccine for HIV. Where are we on this?
Unfortunately, it is still work in progress. Work in progress that since after the trial of the vaccine that the U.S. military tried in Thailand, where we had about 30% protection, we've not had anyone that has really gone into human trial that has been validated as very, very effective yet. It is not an easy one to crack because this is a retrovirus which incorporates itself in the DNA of the person and replicates itself. So it gets into your cell, the part of your cell that directs the replication of white cells. It goes there and replicates itself instead, and so doesn't protect you. So it's not an easy one to crack, but there are several indications that there is hope in the horizon. In terms of time, I don't know. But we can say that we may begin to see some kind of human trials in the next 2 years or thereabouts. There are several things that are there, and more discoveries are leading to understanding the pathway of the virus and the kind of chemicals that work within the system to facilitate its entry and facilitate its replication. And as we get the things clearer, those involved in vaccinology will are in a better position to have a breakthrough.
Thank you very much, sir.
Meantime,
we have to wrap up now. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We'll be speaking with Professor Patrick Dakum. We're going to go on a break now. When we come back, we'll discuss issues surrounding stroke. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. According to reports, stroke is the third leading cause of death worldwide. In Nigeria, mortality rates are very high, with a range of 21% to 45%. On the show today, we have a physiotherapist, Yewande Oshodi, to discuss life after stroke. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good to have you. You see, my father died of, he had stroke, and he died 10 years after. So I understand what life after stroke means, because I had to participate in taking care of him. But for many people going through that phase now, where you have a loved one who just had stroke, and you're having to deal with caring for them, what would you say is the first step to begin that process?
I mean, definitely, as we all understand, you're left with functional dysfunctions after stroke. And so you need to educate yourself on what facilities are out there for you to take care of your loved ones. As a physiotherapist, we play a very predominant role in the care of physiotherapists, but we're actually not the only ones. Occupational therapists are also involved in their care. So educating yourself as a caregiver is, I would say, one of the best things to do. Understand what the resources are, and just how to also be able to provide emotional support for the client.
Well, let's start from the basics. Most people just, use stroke generally and think it's maybe a health condition, and in Africa we have a lot of definitions for it. Let's know what exactly leads to it, how it comes about, and what exactly is stroke.
Okay, so simply speaking, a stroke is when there is a stoppage of blood flow to a particular part of the brain. And wherever that part of the brain controls, that area, you see functional declines in that area. And as a result, that's basically what a stroke is. We see typical patterns where one part of the brain is affected and then the opposite side of the body has the manifestations of functional decline. So you can either have difficulty moving or difficulty with sensation, difficulty with balance, or even just also speech issues as well, not being able to communicate.
Right.
So what would you say are some of the causes of stroke? Because just recently, I was having a conversation with someone and she was shocked about a certain milligram of a drug I was taking. She says, this is too much to take. If it's a higher milligram, maybe you're meant to take it once a day and may lead to stroke. I didn't know that just taking over-the-counter drug could cause stroke. Is that a possibility?
I mean, definitely if you have pre-morbid conditions, so you have to also look at the type of medication that you do take. But typically, the most common thing that they tell all of us is blood pressure. You know, checking your blood pressure, making sure that you are staying within normal guidelines. But of course, if you also have diabetes, you are at risk for a stroke.
Could trauma cause it? Because my father never had BP issues. This was a man that was perfectly healthy, exercising. He was a normal guy. And yes, there was maybe some kind of a trauma happened, and we began to see decline. He stopped talking. He never spoke again to us. I mean, he was able to move around, but speech was a major problem. Now, somebody that has that, can they still live normal lives? Because people still wonder, how do I care for somebody who I can't communicate with?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the key thing, like I said again, as a caregiver, is always to educate yourself on stroke, because people present with strokes in different ways. Exactly. And like I said, it's the part of the brain that is affected, that is manifested on the body. So if, for instance, in the case of your father, it was mostly the areas that control the speech functions, then you would be looking at seeing mostly a speech therapist who would help you in being, or help him also in teaching him new techniques to be able to either communicate, because that's really where his deficit is being manifested. And also for you as the caregiver, teaching you ways in which you can communicate with him, because also a big issue with a lot of our stroke clients we are finding is depression. Because, you know, you've lived a fairly decent, normal, functioning life, and then this accident happens, and then you're now all of a sudden not able to do something that you were able to do earlier.
Are they, sorry, to follow up, are they conscious of this? Because I used to worry, you know, when you try to communicate with the eyes with my dad then, I tried to, like, is he aware that we're trying to communicate with him? Does he understand, or is he in a totally different world?
No. If there's no actual cognitive deficit, which is another functional limitation that can occur, then yes, he will be aware. And so that's why the emotional support is very important, because you have to understand that you're dealing with someone who maybe wants to move their hand, and of course they can't. They know they're thinking it, and they're willing it, but the movement isn't coming. So they are, in some cases, very much aware.
That's a tough one. So is total cure possible? You know, as a physiotherapist, is there a routine that you do? My mom suffered partial stroke. She's well now. You know, is it possible that, you know, they have complete cure? She's usually complaining, you know, I don't want to do anything anymore. I don't want to, maybe I overdid something, you know. Can they get their lives back, really?
I mean, definitely, yes. I mean, the role of the physiotherapy and all the members of the rehabilitation team is basically to improve the function of the client. And really, to be able to improve the function, we need to intervene in the care of the patient. So as physios, we try and see the patients as often as possible. Occupational therapists also intervene. They see as often as possible. And really, the recovery in the first, I would say, 4 months is really it's the highest chance of getting the most recovery, and so we try and bombard a lot of our sessions within that period, as particularly at the centers. So age is another thing that most people sort of assume is a factor that may lead to maybe not having as high recovery, but actually research has shown that it doesn't. So even in your 80s, if you do get a stroke, as long as you're getting intervention within that first 4 months, you know, and of course, quite longer, so I'm not limiting to the 4 months, but really in that period you have as good a chance as anybody else.
Let me take this call. I mean, I wish we knew this 10 years ago. Ismail from Maiduguri, thanks for calling. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Yeah, go ahead, please. You're live. Listen to me. Don't listen to the TV.
My question to Dr. The life after stroke.
Listen to yourself, Ismail. Please listen to us.
If a person happen to have stroke in the left side.
Okay, I think we lost that call.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Given what you just said about, just I'm thinking, is coma a form of stroke then, being in coma? Because we're told that they're aware, some of them are aware of their surroundings, but they're just unable to do anything. Is that a form of stroke? Or just
no, that's just totally different. Yes, okay. Exactly. Basically, the stroke is when, like I said, the part of the brain has been affected because of the lack of blood flow. And wherever that brain part controls, that's where you get the manifestations. And so, like you mentioned, it could also be cognitive. So in cases where you'll see signs of dementia coming in because all of a sudden their cognition has been more affected. And so in those cases, if they are functioning well in terms of walking and moving around, then it's more of the occupational therapist that would work with them to make sure that they're helping them on re-educating them back to, functional activities within the cognitive experience.
Let me take Dada. Come to you, Nima. Dada from Kaduna State. Morning. Are you there? Thanks for calling.
Good morning.
Morning, sir. You're live. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. That's my first time calling you.
Welcome to the show. Are you there, Dada? Please go ahead.
Actually, what I wanted to ask is this. Some people believe that in treating people that are having stroke, it's better for them to be taken to herbal care rather than using, the medication, like the English medication for them. And I had an experience recently. Somebody that's very close to me, where I work, collapsed and was taken for herbal medication, and I was actually kicking against it. But after 2 or 3 days, I saw him back where we work, and he's been doing fine. He's been working well. So my question is that: is it better for people that have that kind of a challenge to be treated herbally or medically?
Thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think the important thing to understand is that, like, as I explained earlier, a stroke is like an accident in the brain. But, God's so good, as would say, any injury that you have, the body already starts to try and correct itself. And so by trying to correct itself, even if it was a very mild stroke, there is a chance that even without intervention, you might actually get recovery. There's a mini form of a stroke called a TIA, that's a transient ischemic attack. And that just means that the blood flow was blocked to that part of the brain for a very short moment. So when you have such an attack, you probably will collapse, but within a very short period, you will regain all your functional capacities. So in such a case, it may be that you go to a herbal doctor and then it looks like you bounce back. But truthfully, if you do have a very aggressive stroke with all these functional limitations, you are not likely to improve with herbal medicine, because the way the brain responds for recovery when you have had a stroke is for you to constantly bombard the brain with exercises that will start to reteach the brain those things that it was doing before. So the medication is only in the initial part of the accident in the hospital to to obviously correct the damage in the brain. But right after that, the physio and the occupational therapy start to work on actually working on the nerves in the brain to make sure that there's recovery of your actual functions.
So thank you, Dad. I was going to ask about recovery because you said, an accident to the side, and lack of supply to the side, a side of the brain.
Exactly.
Is it possible that that side, recovers and, gets blood later? But I guess you've answered the question. Yes. I wanted to talk about unconventional methods of treatment, not necessarily the herbal ones that you mentioned. Some people come with this, Chinese therapy of massages and all of that. What exactly, how true? The Arabs use cupping. They do a lot of other forms of treatment. What other unconventional methods?
Definitely, we employ different methods of treatment. There's constraint-induced therapies. There's electrotherapy that is also used. There are BOBAF techniques that are employed also in treating. And I think the method that each person uses really depends on how you see your patient present. Like I said, most patients, because they present so differently, it's almost difficult to say that there's one form of treatment that can be used. And, back in the early years when physiotherapy was really at the beginning, we had different physiotherapy fathers, BOBAF being one of them. He came up with his own approach, which was basically, as long as you keep weight bearing on the area, the body is going to keep remembering that that area is there, because sometimes they lose that part. And then there's also the motor control theory, which also involves you just using the area and, practicing the skill that area has lost. So it really just depends on what the physiotherapist decides that they want to use
in
at
this
that
part
time.
of the world, a lot of, it's not my portion, it's not your portion. It can never happen to us. And when we get this diagnosis, the first thing we do is we call a prayer meeting, we fast and pray. As a physiotherapist, when you come across people that use this attitude and say that, listen, it's not about the medical, how do you approach this kind of people? What would you say to these kinds of people?
I mean, we just try and talk to them and educate them, and you'll be surprised. We still see people like that at the moment, but it's really educating them and then letting them understand that, okay, if you really believe in this other, this spiritual side, you can work on that and allow us to work on the physical side. So there's definitely a lot of support that even as a physiotherapist we have to give, because if the patient isn't really ready or motivated to participate, then you really don't get much out of them. So you have to find a balance where they also understand that, okay, I'll let her do that, and
Let me take this call from Port Harcourt. Good morning, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're live. Go ahead, please. Alex, you're live. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Mine is a comment. First of all, we have difficulty in connecting to the program. I've tried several times. And back to the topic, the physiotherapists have not told people the cost of their services. It's so expensive. I faced this challenge when my dad had stroke 10 years ago till he died. It was so expensive, 27,000 every 2 weeks. It was so expensive. She should tell us how much they charge now, currently.
Thank you, Alex.
All right.
Okay, you think you had mentioned earlier about the kind of support that a carer would require for someone who has a stroke, and definitely financial support is definitely one of those things as well, because unfortunately, depending on the level of functional decline that the person experienced, rehabilitation is something that can occur from 1 month to almost 9 months to even a year to 2 years. So, it's definitely requires a lot of planning and understanding of how what the person's situation is like and how you expect them to continue during that period. So I would say it's the other thing that I would also mention is also trying to look for the foundations. I think that might be another thing. There are some foundations that are supporting people with strokes, and that's another thing that you might look into. But definitely the cost really varies. I'll have to be honest with you. It does, across the state, across the nation.
Yeah. So I've seen, when the stadium was open, I would see people who seem to be struggling with, lack of movement in some parts of their bodies, and they are working with personal trainers. So I'm wondering if, in a case where someone may not be able to afford a physiotherapist, are personal trainers qualified to help people like that?
I think probably at a later stage, but the thing about it is the body is going to start compensating once you've had a stroke and you're not actually giving it the right physiotherapy. It's going to start doing something. That's the way we were designed. So recovery will start coming in one form or the other. It just may not come the way you want it. You and I, we're grateful. We walk and we walk in a straight line. There's no problems. Yeah. But if you've had a stroke and you're working with someone who is not necessarily understanding what the mechanics of walking or gait should look like, they could probably help you, but not the way a physio would. Because really for us, we have specialized in motion, we have specialized in mobility, and obviously other things. So when you're working with the right specialist, then you are really working to achieve what you...
On Twitter, Andrew is asking, food as medicine, what are the foods that can reduce stroke, since Nigeria has a very bad health system?
I would just say anything that doesn't raise your blood pressure. So just looking at a well-balanced diet and making sure that,
Let's go to that importance of the blood. The blood, because obviously from what you're saying, when blood doesn't get to the brain, certain regions, that's what causes stroke. Could you explain to Nigerians the importance of the blood and how to keep our blood healthy, what to do to ensure that we have healthy blood, and how to ensure the passage to the brain is not impaired or is not deterred in any way?
I think the key thing is, as Nigerians, we just need to now become more health conscious. The incidence of stroke also increases as we increase in age. I think they say it doubles once you get over the age of 45. So your chance of getting a stroke increases, depending on also if you have any other premorbid conditions as well. So it's really to have an understanding of our health at all times, making sure that we're all doing health checks annually, checking your blood pressure, checking your blood sugar. Those are the things that really are important, and managing your diet.
Would you say sedentary lifestyle can be a problem too when it comes to being more susceptible to stroke? Yeah,
because obviously after you get to a certain age, you need to be a lot more active, and exercise is definitely very important for all of us.
Let me take this call from Suleiman. Thanks for calling. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm here. Suleiman from Laro State.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
My question is, what is the connection between diabetes, hypertension to stroke?
Okay, so basically if you're hypertensive, then basically what's happening is that there's more pressure coming into the brain. And the kind of stroke you have can either be ischemic, which is a blockage, or it could be that there's excessive blood flow. And that's the connection that you have between, if you're hypertensive, it will now affect the type of stroke that you have.
I have one on a lighter note. Usually when I hear of physiotherapists, I think they're big, burly men. So to see you as a physiotherapist, is there a type of physiotherapy that you do where you just talk to them, or are you involved in carrying people and helping them move?
Definitely very involved in carrying and helping them move. I don't think size really matters much as a physiotherapist. We learn in school to use our bodies. Otherwise, if you're just using your hands, then of course they get stressed. But definitely it's a job that you have to be physically fit to be able to participate in. But also understanding body mechanics so that you're sure that you don't injure your own back as well.
Rabiat Joke Abdul is asking how can stroke be prevented. But I wanted you to talk about the connection with diabetes. You've addressed the one with blood pressure.
Yes. So it's basically, again, once you are diabetic and you are not able to control your blood sugars, you are just more at risk of developing a stroke.
So how do you prevent? Based on the tweets.
Prevention, it's what we just discussed, just having a healthy diet, making sure you monitor your blood pressure and your blood sugars.
Okay, we're going to wrap up very soon, but I wanted to ask you, because you sound very knowledgeable about this topic and like a very successful physiotherapist. I hope you're not leaving to Canada soon. Because none of you are traveling to Canada. I hope you're in Nigeria. Are you here?
I'm based in Nigeria. We have a facility on the island, Victoria Island.
Yeah. And you're here, you're full ground.
Yes.
For now.
I'm here. For sure.
Thank God. Thank God. Good to know that some Nigerians are still staying behind. Thank you very much for sharing this with us, Money, because the truth is that there are people dealing with stroke right now, and caregivers are clueless on how to even go about helping their loved ones. But thank you for shedding light on this. That's all we can take on the show today. I hope you've learned quite a few, as we have. Have a fabulous day. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.